Alright, what's up you guys? We're back with a new video. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already heard. HBO's Listen to the Fans. We're getting Aegon's Conquest. Yes! Alright you guys, so this story broke from The Hollywood Reporter by James Hibbard. Came out February 8th, titled Game of Thrones Aegon's Conquest spinoff in the works from the Batman 2 writer. HBO is developing another Game of Thrones spinoff series. The company is actively heating up its long in discussion Aegon's Conquest idea. HBO is partnering with Mattson Tomlin, an in-demand scribe who did uncredited work on Matt Reeves' The Batman, and is co-writing its upcoming sequel, The Batman Part 2. He also wrote the Keanu Reeves action comic adaptation Berserker and an animated Terminator series, which he is also showrunning for Netflix. Aegon's Conquest is basically a direct prequel to the hit House of the Dragon, telling the story of Aegon's bloody and brutal conquest of Westeros. Yes, I can't wait. The story shows the invader Aegon Targaryen, who conquered the continent Westeros with his sister wives, Rhaenys and Visenya. I just love what Arya says in Game of Thrones when she's talking to Tywin. He kind of just forget to mention Visenya and Rhaenys when he was talking about Aegon's Conquest. And Arya's like, it wasn't just Aegon. It was his two sisters, Visenya and Rhaenys, and their dragons, Vhagar and Meraxes. So yeah, where did I leave off? His sister wives, Rhaenys and Visenya, and their dragons. Aegon successfully unified 6 of the 7 kingdoms in just 2 years, with only Dorne able to successfully resist. One source describes the project as taking a back-to-basics approach to George R.R. Martin's epic fantasy universe. Though considering the first series was sprawling and complex, it's unclear what back to basics means exactly in the Thrones context. Variety previously reported Aegon's Conquest is an idea in discussion early last year. Since Thrones concluded in 2019, there have been many prequels and one sequel idea put into development, and some are considered no longer active. Though HBO prefers not to say any option is completely off the table, as there's always a chance a once promised idea could be redeveloped under a different writer. The efforts have spawned 2 greenlit shows, House of the Dragon, which launches its 2nd season this summer, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, which starts production this year and is based on Martin's Duncan Egg novellas. And HBO had no comment. Okay, so, I mean, I'm excited. I'm lit. We're gonna see Aegon's Conquest. We're gonna finally see Westeros be united and conquered by the Targaryens. Like, I am a Targaryen loyalist. I am a Targaryen in my mind. Like, no lie, like I can't even lie. Like I love, well, besides the, you know, marrying your siblings and your uncles and your whatnot, you know, all that stuff, I really do love the Targaryens. I just love the whole idea of, you know, them bonded to the dragons by blood and blood magic, and them coming from this faraway land, this faraway realm that is no longer with us anymore, or, you know, they come from this faraway realm that faced disaster and they survived it. Like, I think all of that's so cool. The dragons, like, who doesn't love the dragons? Like, the dragons are so cool. I'm excited. I want to see it's Aegon's Conquest. Like, we cannot shorten it. This needs enough seasons. Let's talk about that. It's gonna need at least, let me see, it's gonna need 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna be at least 10 seasons. If HBO really wants to do Aegon's Conquest some justice, they really are gonna have to give it at least 10, 11 seasons. Because I don't want us to just start off with Aegon's on Dragonstone, and he has a dragon dream, and he wants to go over to Westeros, unite the 7 kingdoms against the White Walkers and the Long Night. Right? So, I don't know. I feel like I want to see more in-depth, more history behind that. I want to see his father, his mother. I think his mother was Valena Velaryon. I could be wrong. Yeah, I want to see his mother. I want to see his father. I want to see other Targaryens. I want to see their relationship with House Velaryon. I want to see other dragons. Were there any other dragons? I know Balerion was only a dragon alive during the Conquest who saw Old Valyria, but was there another dragon prior to that? Can we see maybe 2 older dragons from 2 older Targaryens that are older than Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys. You know what I mean? Maybe we can see something like that, and we can see their dynamic, because I remember that they always said that Rhaenys and Aegon had a better relationship than Visenya and Aegon. So I would like to see that dynamic maybe as kids develop. Like, they can take their time, kind of the way House of the Dragon did. Maybe do one season and split it in half, where you see them as kids and then as adults, and then the conquest starts to happen. You know, I mean, just a thought. Because, I mean, we can't rush anything. We can't rush this show. This show, or this story, rather, this a long story. There's a lot of context, a lot of details. There's a lot of events that happened during Aegon's conquest. You know, we have Aegon's Landing, where Aegon lands in the Crownlands, and he builds Aegon Fort, unites the Crownlands together, and I want to see his relationship with House Velaryon and House Celtigar and House Massey, the first houses that were really loyal to the Targaryen. They're really the first Targaryen loyalists. I want to see that relationship. So I want to see the battle in the waters of the Gold Town. I know that that'll be pretty cool. That's one of the first big naval battles that Aegon faces, or his sisters face rather. I know that it's Visenya and Vhagar, and they go into battle with Gold Town, and it's just like it's a whole naval battle, and it's led by Daemon Velaryon, who's an older Velaryon we haven't seen yet in any of the shows, and I think that'll be pretty cool. Let's see that. Let's see that relationship. Let's see House Velaryon, how loyal and how long that history goes of loyalty to House Targaryen, and that bond and that, you know, that longevity that they have. I want to see it. Let's see that first battle. Let's see Daemon Velaryon, you know, pass away, and let's see Vhagar and Visenya burn the whole fleet. I want to see all that, like burn the whole fleet. Let's go. But that can be one season. Like Aegon's Landing and their childhood can be one season. You can have their childhood in the beginning, like we did with House of the Dragon, first 5 episodes. In the next 5 episodes, it can be Aegon having the dragon dream and him wanting to unite at least the Crownlands. Like, you can have Aegon going to House Celtigar, House Massey, you know, talking to his sisters, his half-brother, Ors Baratheon. He can talk to those people and start gathering his troops, that first like 1,000, like 1,500 troops. I forget the exact number that he goes when he lands in the Crownlands, and he builds Aegon Fort. I want to see that. Like, that can be one season, and then we can go into the battle in the waters of Gold Town. That can be season 2, maybe in the beginning. Like the last episode of the first season, he builds the fort, and then it kind of like leads into season 2, the first 2 episodes maybe being the Battle of Gold Town, and, you know, the Vhagar, Visenya, Daemon Velaryon thing happening, that whole battle, the burning of the fleet. The first maybe 2 or 3 episodes, episode 3, they come back to Dragonstone, or they come back to Aegon's Fort, and they gather their troops, and then they invade the Riverlands. They go straight to Harrenhal. They hear about this massive castle that's supposed to be impenetrable and no one can break through it, and Aegon comes. He tells Harren the Black to, you know, to bend the knee, and Harren doesn't want to bend the knee. So he burns the castle down. This impenetrable giant castle, the most largest giant castle, the biggest castle in all of Westeros, burnt within minutes by Balerion the Black Dread and Aegon the Conqueror. I want to see that. And that could be mid-season 2. Like, season 1, I already explained that. Season 2, Battle of Gold Town, the burning of Harrenhal in the middle of season 2, and then by season 3, we can have the conquest of the Stormlands. You can have that moment where Aegon sends a messenger, an envoy, to talk to Argilac Durrandon, and that can be like the end of season 2, right? Like, you send the messenger, he ends up getting killed, you send his body back, or, you know, Argilac does something very provocative to like get Aegon really pissed, and Aegon sends Ors Baratheon and his sisters to conquer the Stormlands. I think that would be really good. So you have in the beginning of season 2, the Battle of Gold Town. In the middle, the burning of Harrenhal. The burning of Harrenhal, though, can be very long. I feel like the burning of Harrenhal can be at least 3 to 4 episodes. That can be a really big battle. It can be like, there could be things leading up to it. We can go to other people, or we can go to other POV characters, and we can just switch out. But I think that can be a good 3 to 4 episodes in the middle of season 2. And then we can go at the end, maybe the last 2 or 3 episodes, we lead up to the conquest of the Stormlands, which I think would be very cool if they end it kind of like suspenseful, kind of with a death like they did at the end of season 1, House of the Dragons with Lucerys, how it ended with that death, and it's kind of like we want revenge. They can kind of do that with the Stormlands, right? Like have Aegon send somebody that means something to him and Rhaenys and Visenya and Oris, like somebody really important that they send as an envoy to Dorindon, to Argilac Dorindon, and he ends up coming back dead in like a box or something, and it unleashes Aegon's fury for the first time. Like Aegon for the first time, maybe we get to see Aegon like actually beat Aegon the Conqueror, because you know in House of the Dragons they make it seem like Aegon and Westeros, or he conquered Westeros because of the Dragon Dream, and it's kind of like downplays. It takes away from like what we thought Aegon was. Like Aegon is supposed to be this conqueror, this strong leader, and he became king, and he's a conqueror, right? Like that's who you have in your mind. You have this strong masculine guy, but now you have House of the Dragons portraying him as a dragon dreamer. So who knows? He could probably be like Viserys, right? So like we finally see Aegon be Aegon the Conqueror. We finally get to see Aegon be that old Targaryen, the old Valyria, where Dragon Lord's attitude, Conqueror attitude. We kind of like to see that personality come out of him. I feel like that would be great. Like at the end, like how Rhaenyra at the end of season 1, she like turns around slowly with that face. Like we can see Aegon when he gets the news that, you know, one of his commanders or someone really close to him dies at the hands of Argilac. We can see like Aegon come around like real mad, you know what I mean? And yeah, and then season 3, you know, the submission of Clawpoint, then it can lead into the conquest of the Westerlands and the Reach. That's something I really want to see. Every time I hear about the Field of Fire, I read about it, I just imagine how that would look. I just picture when Daenerys attacked Jaime Lannister on his way back with like his envoy and his army from High Garden to King's Landing with all the gold from House Tyrell. Then they had to pay back the Iron Bank. I just picture that, but like 10 times worse, maybe, in a way, because it was supposed to be, I know it's 25,000 people, but it was supposed to be like the biggest army gathered at the time, so that House Lannister and House Gardner, because that's who ran the Reach at the time, whose seat was High Garden. I cannot wait to see that. Like 5,000 men or more in a field getting burnt alive. I mean, that sounds kind of bad. I mean, I don't mean it like that, but like the actual battle, like them gathering their troops. Like you can have the two kings, Mern Gardner and Lauren Lannister, the two kings at the time, the king of the Reach and the king of the Rock. You can have them two gathering their troops, and they can be POV characters, right? Like they can actually be POV characters maybe by season 3, season 4, right? Like they're POV characters, they're gathering their troops, they're hearing about this wannabe king conqueror who's coming for their land with his dragons. I mean, they've probably seen the dragons, but they're like, man, we have our gold, we have our money, we have our wealth, we have thousands of years of history in these lands. Man, we're gonna fight this guy. And we see them gather their troops in the Field of Fire, and we get to see the Field of Fire happen. Like, who doesn't want to see that? Like, that's honestly one of the main things I want to see. One of the most important events of Aegon's conquest that I want to see is the conquest of the Westerlands and the Reach in the Field of Fire. I really want to see that. The submission of the North. I would love to see the submission of the North, and I would love to see them add details into the submission of the North. I mean, this is something I personally would like to see, but I would like to see Torrhen Stark, the king of the North, who was the Stark king at the time, who bent the knee to Aegon Targaryen and his sisters. I would like to see him bend the knee, but not because of him being scared or him wanting to protect his people. I want Torrhen Stark to be a Greenseer. I want him to be able to talk to the old gods and talk to like the other Greenseers and the Black Raven, the Three-Eyed Raven. I'm sorry. Like I want him to see him. I want to see that. I want to see like him talk to the Three-Eyed Raven, and the Three-Eyed Raven convey the message that the White Walkers and the Long Night is coming, and that he should join forces with Aegon. I think that would be really cool for them to show something like that, like them showing that it wasn't Torrhen Stark bending the knee necessarily. it was more something mystical, magical behind it. Like I would love to see something like that. Like Aegon went over there to conquer or unite now because of the dream. He's uniting them against the White Walkers. But I would more so like to see something more magical, more mystical, something more mythological behind this. Like the Green Seer, Torrhen Stark. No one knew he was a Green Seer, even though there were some Green Seers. And like, I don't want to see every Stark be a warg. I want to see a Stark be a Green Seer. I don't know if I read this wrong or maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I could have sworn the Starks were also Green Seers. So like, that would be cool if, you know, he's a Green Seer. He got to see through the Three-Eyed Raven and through the Old Gods, you know, the long night coming. And that's the reason why Torrhen Stark bent the knee. And Aegon Targaryen and him kind of communicate that kind of, and in a way it hints to the Song of Ice and Fire and that whole dream and that whole mythos, right? Like I would love to see the submission of the veil. Like I want to see Visenya, who I feel like Visenya is gonna have that like Targaryen madness a little bit. I want to see Visenya fly to House Aaron and take Ronald Aaron. Like I want to see Shara Aaron, the Queen Regent of the Vale, come out, you know, out of her castle, come out and see her son Ronald up in the air with Visenya and Vhagar flying over, and maybe they can change something. Maybe he falls and dies. I don't know. The invasion of Dorne. We can end with the invasion of Dorne, right? Or no, there's more after the invasion of Dorne. So we can have the invasion of Dorne and we can see Rhaenys, I'm sorry, you know, Rhaenys pass away. But, right, the invasion of Dorne can be a couple of episodes. It can actually be an entire season, right? Or a half of a season where you have maybe Rhaenys Targaryen. She wants to prove herself to her brother Aegon and her sister Visenya, because for the most part, Aegon's conquest was mainly the efforts of Aegon and Visenya, right? So maybe Rhaenys tries to show herself and show that she can conquer something, and why not conquer Dorne? Dorne is, you know, the seventh kingdom that has been the most challenging for us to conquer. You know, something I'm gonna conquer for Aegon, my brother, man, husband. You know, I'm gonna conquer Dorne for him. So, you know, I go out there and die. That's what happens. She basically dies, right? She goes to Sunspear to see Marya Martell, and Marya's like, I'm not bowing down to you, I'm not bending the knee, and she ends up dying. Meraxes gets shot in the eye, right? I think that's what happens, right? During that event, or is it a second time? I'm not sure. And then the submission of Old Town and the crowning by the Faith. I want to see House Hightower start plotting on House Targaryen. Like, I feel like House Hightower was probably plotting on House Targaryen since Aegon's conquest, and I feel like that's something that they should show. Like, they should like sneak that in there. I mean, these are all things that I want to see, but I would love to see like, okay, we bend the knee to the Targaryens, and I'm speaking as a Hightower, whoever's the Lord of House Hightower. Right at the time, like, we're gonna bend the knee to the Targaryens. They want maesters. We have the Citadel under control, right? House Hightower, they are the wardens or the protectors of the Citadel. I forgot the exact title, but like the Citadel is in Old Town. So like they have that leverage over the maesters. They have that relationship with the maesters. And I know that there's been conspiracy theories online that I've read before that the maesters might have been working against the Targaryens. So then this can actually like really set that foundation for that conspiracy, if they ever want to like build off that conspiracy, because I think that's kind of interesting that the maesters never really liked the Targaryens, and they were actually always working against the Targaryens. There's even people who say that Viserys actually got worse, his infection, like that sickness that he had, it actually got worse because of the maesters. That's like one of the biggest like conspiracies out there, because the maesters were from Old Town. They weren't Septons, but they were part of like this establishment, I guess you can say, like these three pillars. I guess you can say it was the Faith, it was Old Town and the High Towers, and it was, you know, the Sept, right? The High Septon, the Church, the Faith. I don't know. I feel like that would be something cool that they could show. You know, maybe some conspiracy going on between House Hightower and the Maesters, and maybe the High Septon early on. You know, wink, wink. Oh yeah, we're gonna crown Aegon, but we really don't like Aegon. We really don't mess with Aegon. And the moment that your family shows weakness, we're gonna take you guys out, which House Hightower does. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Well, yeah, and then show the aftermath. We can end Aegon's Conquest, the show, the last season. We can end that with see the birth of Aenys and then the birth of Maegor. Like that would be so cool. Like we see, and then we see this birth of Aenys, and then we see the birth of Maegor, and then we kind of see that conflict start to rise between the two sisters and two sides of the family, right? Like the Targaryens are known for their family conflicts, so like let it start there, right? Let's show it and end it there. Like the birth, and everyone's happy for Aegon, King Aegon, the first of his name, and they're showing him raising his two sons, and then they can show in the background like the two sisters real mad, like that's my son's gonna be king. Can't wait. It should be out in 2026 or 2025. That's all I got. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below if you're excited. I want to hear from you guys. All right, see y'all next time.